Yeah, look at their set.
Who was excited? Who wanted Spain to win? Yeah. Woo! Who wanted France to win? Yeah. Who was just a full hater and wanted no one to win? Okay, good. Okay, well, I'm glad we have the haters here. Okay, so thank you all for joining tonight. We have a packed audience, as we can see here, and we'll just jump right in, I think. Firstly, let me just say, this is DSciNYC. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram. Please tag us. I also run a prediction market for clinical trials. So if people are interested in prediction markets for Annabelle, can you go tell this guy outside to raise the volume of the microphone? Awesome. If you guys are interested in prediction markets for clinical trials, we're hiring. So basically, imagine you have a poly market for science. So if instead of betting on sports or betting on politics, you're interested in betting on science and which drugs are going to be successful, you should come work with us. It's called Endpoint Arena. You can download our app. We're hiring, so if you want to submit an application form here, we have a small team, but we're looking to grow. And we have partners. Okay, so without further ado, we are going to have Julius coming in from San Francisco. And Julius, we've been friends for a while. I don't remember when we met, but...
I don't win.
What?
I don't win.
Oh, you don't? Okay, so we've been friends for a while, and then I was in San Francisco recently, and he was giving a great talk on peptides in San Francisco, and I said, hey, I know people have been curious about peptides in New York forever. Why don't you come out to give a talk on Peptides 101? So without further ado, Julius.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Actually, we met at a DSci event that you hosted with the founder of enhanced.com, with Andrew,
Yes.
in 2024.
Yes, I remember.
And now I'm back for a talk about enhancement as well. It's kind of cool.
Full circle. So anyone here can be a speaker and down the road. Woo!
Alrighty. Yeah, Peptides 101. I'll just take main part, I guess.
Oh yeah. Or you don't hit the button. Right.
Yeah, amazing. So first of all, who's this person standing in front of you? Hi, I'm Julius. Super stoked to be here. I've done a couple of things in the space, and the dots connect only looking backwards. So it's really good to now talk about peptides here in New York. A couple of things about me. I founded the California Peptide Club with the intention to not start a wellness community or a biohacking club, but to bring together the researchers, founders, and the ones that want to be educated on the peptide space in San Francisco. And I think I have people we bring together are cool people like you, a bunch of weirdos as well, and then a bunch of cool doctors. It's a really good crowd. And then I also run AGI House, which is, you could say, a hacker house, also in the stereotypical San Francisco sense, which you might have experienced, but it's a nice one. And we've had 10 unicorn founders live with us. The lovable founder lives with us. Perplexity was started at AGI House. So if you ever find yourself wanting to invest in a startup, sort of get involved in San Francisco, reach out to me. Then of course, if I'm from San Francisco, I'm a longevity founder, formerly. And of course, I'm also an AI founder. That's just how it works. I actually sold an AI company and shut down the longevity company, and I'm talking to you about longevity. I'm not sure that's a good sign. But apart from that, I've also done the stuff that my parents might care about. And sperm racing. As of Sunday. Yeah, seems like VCs like throwing $10 million at 17-year-olds to build a new sport. And yes, I raised my sperm. I lost tragically, but I had the bigger load. So, and then again, like, if you have parents and they care for logos, like, work with a cool longevity startup on the founding team, it's called Superpower. And then I've done, like, the boring stuff, and I went to a cool school in the US. So, that's that. What's the California Peptide Club? You can see it here. I want to bring more of that spirit that I just described to New York. So, tonight's going to be the night where I'm going to have a QR code, and you can scan it to also join a WhatsApp group chat called the New York Peptide Club. And who knows, maybe that's leading somewhere. And maybe I can find some people here who would like to build that with me in the city. Yeah, we've hosted several gatherings in San Francisco, overlooking the Bay. And yeah, out of that came business collaborations, trials and studies were funded, co-founders met. So I hope you're just right for the same notion. Right, peptide prime time. What are we talking about? So, first of all, what are peptides? Right? I guess like many of you wouldn't be able to answer that question, and that's great because that's what we do. Second of all, why are peptides so relevant right now? Like you see them everywhere. Like soccer moms post about them on TikTok, and then your best friend tells you to get on Reddit, and you're like, dude, what's Reddit? Right. Then we have the history. How do we get there? I'll make this quite brief because there's two more things that are way more important also to you, which is how do I get the stuff that doesn't kill me? And what is the stuff I should get to look beautiful, feel great, and live forever? And then, if we have time, I actually might show how to do the injection, because I know many are afraid of needles and think it's kind of weird. Many of my friends, whom I've, I guess, helped through that process, feel so empowered afterwards. It's like, fuck, I can help myself. It's actually quite cool once you do it once, but I know that many of you are quite skeptical. So, let's start with a quick show of hands. Who here has injected themselves with peptides? Hands up here. Okay, that's like maybe 20%, I'd say. And keep your hand up. And keep your hands only up if you've injected yourself with research-use only peptides. That's almost all of you. That's great. It means you're not type 2 diabetes. That's really good. All right. So, what is a peptide? I zoomed in here awkwardly because you can see it. You might know all of these peptides from your whey protein or collagen protein, where it says L-leucine, L-isoleucine, and so on. Those amino acids are the building blocks of peptides. So you are eating amino acids already every day. In your protein powder, you can see them. If you have a piece of chicken breast as well. So they are the building blocks of life and the building blocks of protein and peptides. Peptides, after all, are just short proteins, right? 2 to 50 amino acids stacked together are called the peptide. Here are some examples. They're very short ones. Those are amino acids like glycine, which you might take for sleeping better, right? And then there are peptides like collagen, which you can actually just eat and digest. And surprisingly, it works pretty well. We can talk about the gut-blood barrier later and why eating peptides usually doesn't work, but for collagen it's a famous one. Then there's retatrutide, which is the most recent GLP. That looks a bit more complicated, as you can tell. Now, 40 is a magic number in the peptide space. Because after all, everything is driven by pharma incentives. That's how it works. And you might, because one of the questions I get all the time is like, hey, why is BPC 157 not FDA approved? We'll get there in a moment. But the number 40 is important because once you have more than 40 amino acids chained together, it's called biologic by patent law, and you have way more protective patent rights at the moment. Meaning, I think the patent then holds for about 12 years. You can extend it. And right now, Eli Lilly, the manufacturer of retatrutide, is actually in court to debate that their 39 long amino acid peptide retatrutide classifies as biologic because it has like 2 more complex strains of amino acids that like technically are 2 peptides, so it should be 41. And so yeah, they're investing millions into getting that lawsuit settled. So 40 is important to remember. Insulin is the first peptide possibly that you might have heard of, and is by today's standards not a peptide anymore. But I'm putting this here to demonstrate that peptides have been around forever, and have been consumed forever. And when people are getting excited about peptides, it's mostly about injecting them health with specific something like 10 to 20 peptides. That's like the most we usually talk about. But there's also other ways of taking peptides. Injection is the most famous one. Subcutaneously is preferred, meaning under your skin, ideally in an area where you have a bit of fat. And that means that roughly 60 to 70% of the peptide that actually is systemically relevant. You could do it in your vein, and then it's like 80, 90% systemically relevant, but it comes with so many risks that I would strongly discourage anyone from trying that. Also, by the way, I'm not a doctor, although it would make my father very proud, but I'm not. And so this is not medical advice, nothing I'm saying here. And if I say you should or whatever, just laugh it out mentally, okay? I never said that. So second way, oral GLPs are very difficult, and we just learned why already. After all, peptides are just made from amino acids, and your body is insanely good at breaking them down. So it breaks down the amino acids, and all of a sudden you just have a bunch of amino acids in your gut, right? And they don't actually find the targeted receptor that they're supposed to bind to anymore. Now, Big Pharma is smart, and Big Pharma knows, well, taking pills is so much easier. And they've developed a specific mechanism called SNAP that allows you to eat or orally take a GLP more than later. Then there's the Russian peptides, C-Lang and C-Max. Those are focused peptides. I guess many of you work in very demanding jobs, right? It's a fast city, and you just want to lock the fuck in sometimes. And for that, you can take C-Lang and C-Max. They come in nasal sprays. One of these bottles costs like $60. And for many of them, many of my friends, they work quite well. Now, would I recommend starting with like nicotine, caffeine? Yes, probably yeah. It's a bit high out there, I get the Jack and protocol. And then there's topical solutions. This is maybe something for the women in the room. Has any one of you ever bought like a copper or GHKCU specific? Yeah? See a couple of hands, couple of nods. Also by some guys. That's cool. Yeah, so they've been around forever, right? GHKCU specifically helps the body naturally produce more collagen, which, as everyone knows, is good for skin and nail health and hair health. Let's talk a bit more about the history of the actual injectable peptides. And before we go there, people ask me, hey, Julius, I want to lose weight or I want to get jacked. Should I get on peptides? The answer is it depends, right? It really depends on where you are. I'd say ideally fix the basics first. But if you suffer from actual chronic sleep problems, you might want to try Panelion or Depibalin if nothing else works. So it really depends. But I just remember this diagram generally. Like, if you get your sleep, nutrition, training, movement, and your social circle right, you really don't need peptides. I'm just saying that because, you know, they're not 10%, not 1%. So what's happening? All the big telehealth companies are launching peptides. Hims is launching a pill in collaboration with Novo Nordisk. My good friend Max is launching a peptide brand under Superpower. Peptides now get sold in Los Angeles on the streets for $500. What does it even mean? Like, now offering Ritter, then doctors receive individual warning letters by the medical boards telling them not to prescribe, for example, BPC, even if it was renamed something else. So it's a mess right now. And it's also very exciting. And there's also an opportunity for entrepreneurs, researchers, and individuals. That picture is me. I actually once slightly overdosed over the fruitide. So if you take the GLP-1, it inhibits you, it slows down gastric empty. And then I had a fatty meal the same night, full of cheese, and it could go one way, so it did go the other way. Like, it was a horrible night, puked 7 times, and then had to get a double IV the next day because I was so dehydrated. So if you go on GLP-1s, be careful. slowly ramp up the amount and eat smaller stitches. Like it's not a panacea of everything. Another risk that you see is that if you buy it from the research use only peptides, sometimes the certificate analysis might show there's 0% peptide found. Great. There's another example in which someone bought retatrutide and realized, I'm getting quite tanned. It's nice, but what's going on here? And it turned out that the sample was melatonin 2, which makes you more tan. So you get a different peptide, right? Now, generally speaking, the way business incentives works is any business also prefers to provide good quality peptides because otherwise they get out of business. So in general, like even the gray and research use only market is rather clean, but there are still bad actors. So why are peptides commercialized? Why is there no one, say, patenting BPC and making use of that patent? Well, there actually is a patent on BPC, and it's for sale. You can actually buy it. But why is no one buying it? Because like the patent won't help you. If you just attach some random molecule to BPC that does the exact same thing in your body, it's going to be classified as a new molecule. Okay, so pharmas are incentivized to even invest in any clinical trials if there's not like a significant commercial outcome afterwards. And there's no patent protection, I can just talk about. Especially on the short peptide chains, remember the biologics from earlier. And so it's a bit of an interesting situation. And it goes as far as that Big Pharma is launching campaigns against compounding pharmacies. We'll talk about this later, but they of course want to protect their kingdom. Let's talk about the actual regulatory landscape. And I'm going to show you a diagram with some of the actors that are part of the whole peptide ecosystem that are making sure that you can get your compound to various degrees of work. And bear with me, I'm going to walk through. Who here has heard of Chinese peptides? It's a thing, right? And so what is Chinese peptides? Is that bad? Like, is China all bad? Was Trump right after all? Let me find out. The vast majority of peptides right now, outside the facilities that Big Pharma owns, are produced in China. Sure, there's some in India, and there's some stuff happening in Estonia, and friends of mine are building US-made manufacturing plants that do everything from scratch. But it's very nascent, and for decades, the Chinese manufacturers have optimized the hell of the process and are the best in the world at producing it. And that's why they're importing most of it to the US. Now, there's different buyers from these facilities, right? There's the research use only gray market. And research use only means that these companies also sell peptides that are currently not FDA approved, such as BBC 157, tesamorelin, epidala, GHKCU, right? And they source the peptides from the Chinese manufacturer, which itself might source it from another lab, which is interesting, and then resell it. And all they do is they might get the API, they might do like another cleaning process here in the US, and then they just bottle it into tiny vials. And let me show you one of these tiny vials. And you get that delivered in lyophilized powder. Lyophilized meaning not me. So that's the way number one. And usually these websites have like established relationships with the Chinese manufacturer or know someone who knows someone. Recently, Peptide Sciences, the largest manufacturer, the largest RDO website, voluntarily shut down because the FDA indeed increases scrutiny and has been more aggressive on that front. But for years, you can send crypto money or like Venmo account randomly, and then hope the peptide will arrive miraculously. And this is why it's called gray market. Because for you, it's not a crime, it's not illegal. But on the website, it can never say that this is for human consumption. In fact, it often explicitly states not for human consumption or for research use only. Everyone knows, you're not running your cell cultures at home. This is like clearly human consumption after all. And so yeah, it's the gray market Amazon. And then we have compounding pharmacy. Now, what are compounding pharmacy? Actually, compounding pharmacies were the first kind of pharmacies that were ever established. And the main job of a pharmacist used to be get a prescription from a doctor and then mix the ingredients together in the pharmacy, right? And it's only through mass manufacturing that we don't have to do this anymore as much. They still do it some at times, right? I think it makes like 10 to 20% of all medication per 100 out. It's getting smaller. And so what a compounding pharmacy does, it has the resources and the ability to also compound peptides from the active pharmaceutical ingredient, which is the short version is API. Not the API from for all the engineers here, but API for active pharmaceutical ingredient. I thought like the question is, where do they get the API from? Where do they get these ingredients from? And the answer is also from China. Right? People were like, oh, I'm getting my stuff from compounding pharmacy. And I said, yeah, great, it's the exact same lab. They're delivering to the compounding farm. There's a bit of a caveat here. Why? Because the FDA has actually been originally 7, now down to 5 labs that passed certain quality standards in China. Which is great, right? You might wonder, why don't more of the manufacturers apply for that? Like, this is kind of crazy. And the reasons are twofold. Maybe they're three, fourfold. I know of 2 reasons. A, there's like a language barrier and a process barrier. And B, the manufacturer actually doesn't make that much money trading peptides. 99% of the economics happen here in the US when people upsell the peptide. Which is why, if you get the peptide directly from China and find like the Discord server and like a friend who speaks Chinese or Google Translate, you way into that, you can get peptides like 10%, 5% the price. You pay for research use only. So there's like a risk pricing trade-off, in case you want to now, compounding pharmacies only sell the peptides, well, not only, mainly sell the peptides that you can get with a prescription from a doctor. There's also caveats to that, but let's stick with the normal case. And then there's, of course, Big Pharma. Eli Lilly earlier this year announced that they're investing $3.5 billion into building 4 new facilities to produce their blockbuster drug, retatrutide. And yet I've heard that they're getting some of the raw materials from China. Now, I don't know if it's true, but someone I very much trust and who's been on Human recently claimed that. So it's quite interesting how the supply chain works here. And then also, if you buy Novo Nordisk or Eli Lilly directly, you also do your prescription. How do you get one? Well, telehealth is a big thing. Like Novo Nordisk has their own pharmacy. A doctor that you trust can give you a prescription usually. Or you just cash pay, and it's actually affordable, especially for the GLPs. If you just want to make sure of £5, it's like $349 a month for semaglutide, which is okay, considering it was once way more. That's nothing you have to remember. Just if you hear the word 503A, those are the small compounding pharmacies that everyone in M&A and PA looking at right now, and PE looking at right now, like, oh, the new HVAC play, can we consolidate compounding pharmacies to make a lot of money here? So that's the 503A, the traditional compounding pharmacy. And then the larger ones are insanely capital intensive to set up. But yeah, people are really talking. Now, Eli Lilly wants absolute retatrutide supremacy. Quick reminder, retatrutide is the best weight loss drug the world has ever seen. You might know Ozempic, Wegovy, first generation, Mounjaro, Zepbound, second generation, and now retatrutide is the new brand. Went through phase 3 trials, insanely successful, right? And we get to learn about more and more positive side effects by the day. And so yes, they want to reclassify Turs and Ritter as biologics, and are currently in in court to them. So this is actually the most interesting time ever in this space because we've seen the accelerated, zeitgeist, people talking about peptides. And on July 23rd, these four peptides, and on July 24th, the other three peptides, amongst others, are getting reconsidered to actually move out of the category 2 list. Now, what's category 2? So the FDA has different categories for substances, molecules, anything you can basically take. And category 2 means do not compound. Right? Category 3 means we don't have enough data on this and we're not considering it. And I think even things like rosemary are in category 3. Like we're very random, but category 2 quite free. And so, in a good case for us, they're gonna announce on their live stream, so you can watch this live or at least get live notifications. They're gonna say, hey, compounding pharmacies can compound this again. And then you can get all these peptides in a short period of time without going through researchers only websites. There's going to be public comment, going to take some months to get the actual proposed framework in place, 3 to 12 months depending. And then hopefully compounds can actually start happening. That doesn't make it an FDA approved drug. Now, is that a problem? Not really. For many of these peptides, like APC-157, we have years and decades of anecdotal data with literally 0 adverse side events reported. And some of you might know about, especially the guys might know about enclomiphene, or clomiphene, right? And clomiphene was FDA approved, and clomiphene was never, because it's part of clomiphene. The only thing is not FDA approved, it doesn't make it bad. But keep that in mind. Now, let's talk a bit more about where to actually get the peptides from. And I'm going to give you a bit of a step-by-step guide. So the GLPs usually get in pens, meaning they are reconstituted in water already. Whereas the compounding pharmacies will send you little vials, and you have to compound that yourself. And I brought some stuff, as I mentioned, to you guys later. Now, when you're finding a gray market provider, you want to check for a couple of things. Is this the right peptide? No, is it not melatonin? Is it pure? That's the most important one, right? There's all sorts of other stuff you could have in there. There's certain salts that are actually most dangerous. People usually know about endotoxins, heavy metals of that sort, that are bad, but not as bad. Those salts, and it could also be like anything else. When it says 98% uracil, it means the 2% could be literally anything. And then potency. Is this the right amount? Check out Finric, we're going to look at it in a moment, to see which providers have crystals. And here you can see them, already listed different peptides. How convenient. And the data is actually really, really promising. So what this means is on this axis you have purity, and on this axis you have the measured amount of label, and then you can see the samples for every single manufacturer. And the median plus a lot of times the 25th to 75th percentile are within these ranges. So that is really promising for a compound and for it. Now, a website that I'm right now getting my stuff from is called Peptide, peptime.com. I'm the founder, so in case anyone's interested in talking to them, we're also doing a collaboration with our club right now. I can probably get some percentages off. Talk to me, and we can make it work. I can share like a code later as well. Now, if you want to actually read a certificate of analysis yourself, or if you want to send a sample from that Chinese website you found, you got to deliver it. You know how to read the actual outputs. So this is going to be quick, but here are the three things. You have the purity, which in the result here is 98.9%. You have the question is whether it stays in the 20% range between 90 to 110%, which is also the case here. And then the question is it the mass as recorded? And we can't see what the actual mass was supposed to be, but I guess it's around 60 milligrams or 70 milligrams. Yeah, let's talk a bit more about that idea of sourcing directly from China. Because I did it. I tried a lot of food suppliers to find what's actually good in the space. I care about it from like a scientific standpoint, but also from a cost-saving standpoint. Easily, if you have a peptide stack, you can spend up to $600, $700 or more a month, which is like just not sustainable long term. The difficult things are there. I can also send it around a link later if it's helpful. But that's what happened to me. I paid them like $300 and they told me, oh, Carol got paid. We didn't receive your money. And then my Chinese roommate had to go on like a negotiation war with them to get them to still sell us the peptides. Isn't that crazy? I thought it was lost, but I told them, I run this cool club. Let's send us to a partnership. And yeah, I'm waiting to hear back on the results. But no, we got the peptides, and they're just getting tested now. Also, this is 100% AI generated. Like, there's no way Anna from China looks like that. So, quick overview. If you want to remind yourself or take a photo of this, or if friends ask, during the next rum club meeting or in the wine bar, hey, what peptides and are they risky? This is a summary. There's one more thing I didn't mention before, and it has a place here. It's bacteriostatic water. What does that even mean? It's the liquid you use to basically take that lyophilized powder and turn it into something injectable. And can't you just use tap water? No. That happened during a longevity conference. I want to say like a year or two ago, and 2 people had to get delivered to the hospital. The conference had a terrible reputation since. So it's really dangerous. What's special about that water is that it has 0.9% benzyl alcohol, which prevents new bacteria from growing. Now, the wording is important because it doesn't necessarily prevent existing bacteria from staying alive. So you want to get good bacteriostatic water. Not any. It's not that high, but after all, it could be the same stuff as you find in the peptide itself. And so Pfizer, the pharma company, has this brand, which you can recognize by having a QR code. A QR code on the back of the vial. And it's tiny. Like you wouldn't be able to see it from here, but there's a tiny QR code here. And that's how you know it's good back water. Amazon took this down. You can't buy this on Amazon. It's very fascinating how the e-commerce is evolving. Then you also need alcohol swabs, sterile syringe. Please always make sure it's sterile and you wipe off the injection area before you do it. I'll show you later. And some peptides with some side effects. Like on melatonin too, you'll get very angry and aggressive and very horny. Now that's something you might embrace. I set it to use, I don't know, main character arc. Let's go. But not sure that's sustainable. Alright, now I know many of you are probably here to also learn what can I actually take and why. And what should I look into? And so we're mainly going to look into 3 a bit more closely, which are the GLPs, just because they're everywhere. And by in terms of market size, orders of magnitude larger than the research use only segment. For some time, I think they were larger than the entire AR market. That's changed now. But research use only peptides are only around $200, $300, $400 million in the US, which is tiny in comparison to the multi $100 billion to $2 billion industry of GLPs. Secondly, we're going to look into EPC-157, which I guess is the second most famous peptide and used for tendon healing. Interesting story there. And then we're going to look into GHKCU quickly, as well as a few others. And then, if you want to learn more about different ones, we can talk after maybe like a peptide 201. Before you start getting on a protocol, your doctor, not me, would recommend you to get blood work done, so you understand what's actually going on. For example, if your growth hormone already is elevated, you might want to get on a growth hormone. For example, if your inflammation is high, it might actually be quite helpful to look into that, where it's coming from. This is like prolactin issue, because you lower the EPC systemically. And so you do that with someone who understands peptides. Now, I know many of you are going to go out there and just experiment yourself. And I personally did that. So you're welcome to do whatever you want. Those are the different categories many people put these into. It's not rigid. But what do peptides do? Well, they help with growth hormone, which is recovery, and in its extreme, also muscle growth, tissue repair, like BPC, TE500. Those two together, you might know as the Wolverine stack. That rings a bell. With GHKCU, it's called the glow stack, if that rings a bell. And with KDD, it's called the close stack. So, people are selling these stacks together, and they work surprisingly well together. Then MOTC and SS31 are mitochondrial peptides. Then you have some for the immune system and sexual system, like thymosin alpha-1. I know many people who travel a lot. They just can't afford to get busy, they're too busy to get sick. So they just take a bit of thymosin alpha-1, boost their immune system before they get on the plane. So it's also a bit of like insurance. You basically buy insurance, and it helps you fight upcoming disease. Pretty happy. And then we of course have the GLP-1s as this becoming. So I know many friends who just want to not think about food anymore. In fact, that was the whole premise of one of the companies I started. Was like a longevity DoorDash, basically, where you get super healthy, organic, vegan, locally sourced meals delivered every week, stacked in your fridge, and you wouldn't have to think about it, right? And so microdose of retatrutide can accomplish that. That's about 0.5 milligrams per week. For the tirzepatide, that will mean 2.5 milligrams a week. Now you might ask, retatrutide or tirzepatide, what should I take? Well, you can try both. Tirzepatide already is FDA approved. Retatrutide will be. Less dopaminergic behavior is a very common side effect. There's studies showing that you actually scroll social media less. You have less cravings overall. So I think that's pretty cool, pretty wonderful. In its extreme, the absence of desire can also lead to the absence of sexual lust or strife. But again, in the extreme, everything kind of goes south. When you take these peptides, you don't eat a lot. You might lose your muscle, so that's a real concern, and that's happened to many. You might suffer from just like fatigue, which happens when low blood sugar. So those are common things you can experience. Same with nausea, maybe headache, vomiting. But it's truthfully not that bad. Your body gets used to it. Just give it some time. No medical loss. That's the history of GLPs, by the way. So exenatide and liraglutide and a couple of others before were actually the first GLPs, not semaglutide. The problem is it's really, really annoying to take them daily, like do daily injections. Or they were also less effective. Like they only led to like pretty moderate weight loss. So the real blockbuster drug was when post-COVID 2021, all of Hollywood got on the shortly before approved semaglutide train. And I feel like everything that spreads from Hollywood or from San Francisco or from New York into the world. And so that's when we got on this hype train. And for personalized health, I'm going to talk a bit more about why I'm passionate about this. But let's make sure you guys know the basics first. And then tirzepatide and retatrutide followed, both developed by Lilly, making it the first $1 trillion biotech company ever. That's how impactful these are. And now they're actually already working on another drug, which you only have to take once a month. So this is the overview of what the GLP does in your body. They generally stimulate insulin and suppress glucagon, especially with retatrutide. You can call it a GLP-3 because it actually acts on 3 receptors. Yeah. On the GLP-1, the GIP, and the glucagon receptor, your body naturally already uses GLP-1 to tell you that you're full. But it only lasts for about a minute or two in the body. Whereas retatrutide binds to the GLP-1 receptor for way longer, has a half-life of about a week. So that's why you're feeling fuller. It also actually activates satiety directly in the hypothalamus in your brain, which is also incredible. Now, there are concerns, and especially when you talk to people who are a bit more conservative, they remember the bad news and the negative side effects that are about. So you have to take them for life. That's an interesting one, right? 55% of people who take a GLP stop taking them because of costs. 55%. That's actually quite a lot if you think about it. But that doesn't really make this argument more profound. Isn't it the same with everything? Like, if you start doing a workout routine or eating healthy, and you go back to a shit routine, you're also going to gain weight again, right? So it's a bit of a generic argument. There are unknown side effects. I mean, it's been around in large-scale human trials for 10 years. How long do you want to wait? How much longer do you want to wait until something magical appears out of nowhere? To be so sure there are no crazy negative side effects. And lastly, on quite the contrary, we're discovering so many positive side effects. Almost on a weekly basis, I read a new research study on GLP-1s helping with fertility. Male fertility. I mean, if you're leaner, of course, your testosterone increases for various reasons. There's a estrogen, the aromatase-specific mechanism, and it helps you again. It helps you be less addicted to alcohol. It's the more we understand GLPs, the more we recognize what other amazing things they do around. Also, shout out to Kevin, who we hosted at the California Peptide Club. Who's really big to demographics. Anyone else here know Kevin? Oh, from Twitter. Fantastic, great guy. And so he provided the statistic amongst a few others. And also, there's a natural weight loss regain that you have after finishing a diet. And that's not statistically different from having an effect with Ozempic. Ozempic being the first GLP-1, just as a reminder. And as I said, less heavy drinking, boosts your testosterone. Oh yeah. Okay, right. Yeah, that's it on GLP-1s. Now, before we move on, I actually want to make this a bit interactive. Does anyone have a GLP-1 specific question? We can chat really quickly. Otherwise, we also have time to chat afterwards or one-on-one. No? Great. Okay. Let's move on. BPC 157. As you can tell, I like my show of hands questions. Who here knows BPC 157 or has heard of it? Wow. Okay, I'd say this is 60% people. That's actually quite cool. Now, this might just look like words and letters to it. Letters and numbers to it, sorry. So, I'm going to give you enough help remembering it. BPC nowadays stands for Body Protection Compound. Originally, it was named after the Croatian research group, a researcher who discovered that peptide. And actually, it was originally found to be BPC, which is the protein that us humans and dogs produce naturally. Isn't that great? And it's actually quite funny because your favorite pseudoscience, or not pseudoscience, popular science researcher, Pavlov, you might know from like the dog stimuli experiments. You know, yeah, like saliva coming out of your mouth when the dog hit the bell. I think it's a pretty common science experiment. Also, as a side gig, they actually sold the gastric juices of dogs because they contain BPC. And kind of wild, like even their own, get like early days dropshipping business or we sold that stuff and you can see how it's kind of disgusting. But that's why humans actually took dog gastric juices for gut health as well, because it contains BPC. Scroll back. Let's put this here. Now, what does it do to the body? Well, in contrast to the GLP-1, it has a very specific target. Like it literally says in the name what the target is. BPC is systemic. And it's so wild because we don't exactly understand how it works yet. What it does though, it helps with tendon healing. If you have an torn ACL, it might help. If you have an injury after, I don't know, soccer game. So it's like semi-cooling, even overrides, or still helps after you've taken corticosteroids that are usually actually reducing any sort of healing functions in the body. And BBC still works, which is like a miracle for many scientists. Yeah, human data. That's also a thing that we always hear. For GLPs, we have extensive human data. Tens of thousands of people went through the studies. And for BPC, there's so much anecdotal data, and yet there's only one human research study that was done in Croatia. And now, Americas, of course. This center where all the science needs to happen, and for it to be acknowledged. Right? That's how we think it's our American-centric worldview. Now, the problem is, only ever the abstract of the paper was published, and it was only 40 patients. But we have so much positive data in mice. There's so much anecdotal data and zero reported adverse side events. So if you're thinking about accelerating your own healing, also after like a very strenuous workout, like if you do get leg day every once in a while and you're like, I need to recover quickly because I'm also playing sport with the girls, the boys next day, and BBC can be really helpful. Also, the good news is, now with all the hype, the NHS and philanthropists are funding more studies. It's actually quite incredible. And I know many of you care about science, so we see people like design studies and fund using as low as like around $100,000, which is going to be super incredible. So I'm actually very stoked also that we finally get more. Okay. It also comes in oral form now. Lastly, let's do quickly GHKCU. This is an example of someone taking GHKCU. So you can either inject it or apply orally. But make sure when you source it that it has a high concentration. And it's helpful when it's actually blue because copper is blue. And usually we don't have lots of insight in what the manufacturer actually puts. Also, please don't neglect the QFA. We're going to give it done. Yeah, you can back it with other healing or systemic peptides that help you just like get this glow look and people actually have a more shiny face. It's quite miraculous. And as you can tell, I'm also taking a bit of like the scientist approach here. Like, skip over that due to time. There's a couple more steps you might want to have a look at later.
You can describe them. Just keep it moving.
All right. Yeah. Cool. So, mitochondria. As you know from high school biology, the mitochondria is. Oh my god, that was so much better than expected. Exactly. So, what you want to do first, if you take that, what you want to do first is you want to use MODC to actually repair how the mitochondria function, high level, and then SS31 to get the engine running faster. There's the whole growth hormone. And growth hormones are a bit of an interesting area. Unless you take like directly HGH, human growth hormone, which is by the way illegal in the United States, and was used, for example, for Messi, so he grew from 6'2" I think it was projected to be lesser. Maybe 5.2, now he's 5.5, something 5.6. So it's useful, it used to be used for some children. But apart from these, it's not as dangerous as people might think. You want to cycle these growth hormone secretagogues. Now, what's a secretagogue? Secretagogue says that, or means that it prompts your own body to secrete more growth hormone or prolong the already existing release of growth hormone. Now, growth hormone grows everything. So people might see, oh, this strange brown spot is also getting larger. That's kind of concerning. Or if you have cancer, it might also help the cancer cells spread more quickly. Testosterone here, many of these have been around for like many years in the bodybuilding community. And the bodybuilding community has like literally like basically non-existing risk profile, right? Like, so they've been experimenting a lot, and bro science has brought us a long way. Testosterone is approved for visceral fat removal. So when I did my DEXA scan, I actually had 0% visceral fat. Visceral fat is the fat around the organs, can be dangerous in aggregate. So it's pretty cool. Also, that stuff makes you really hungry, so use it during the fast. And then lastly, focus. I mentioned that already. Bit of Cmax, C-lamp in the nose. Injecting works through, but takes like 15 days until you make the aggregate effect, so may try the nasal spray. Alrighty. Now, these are a couple of friends or famous people in the space that if you want to consume more content, I can highly encourage you to look at what these people are providing to the world completely for free.
It's pretty good.
Now, as a last quick outlook, what does the future hold? So we're just getting started in terms of taking our health into our own hands and escaping the pharma small molecule market and, becoming very empowered. It's only going to get better from here. So I'm fortunate enough to meet a lot of entrepreneurs in the space who are developing novel form factors. Just had a founder, Ursula back from Canada at the house, and she gave me a piece of peptide chocolate, which is interesting. Now, if you listen, you might remember, wait, doesn't that get digested in the body? Well, in theory, yes, but it's surrounded by like the lipids and the fats, which seem to be somewhat protective and make you feel the effect. So sometimes it just works, and I haven't found out why it shouldn't. Also, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk have released pills. They're less effective, might make you more nauseous, but are at the same time also so much easier to take. Secondly, novel delivery mechanisms. A friend of mine is developing a way to, through algae, deliver the peptide and protect it from the gut. Thirdly, personalized medicine. Imagine if a company, also run by another friend of mine, superhungry.com, is able to sequence your whole proteome and give like high personalized peptide recommendations. How crazy cool would that be? Then I mentioned the research studies that are happening. Super excited for that. Use Michael's platform to bet on them if you can. And also, lastly, more research around peptides in women, which is even more sparse than for men. And it's way more complex because of the menstrual cycle and other hormonal effects that are already happening, and the peptides might surprisingly intervene. If anyone cares about this, a good friend of mine wrote a long article on peptides for women. Super excited. But it's also very early stage research. Great. Now, Michael, time, injection, no time.
Just do it. Keep it moving.
We don't have. Okay, do you actually want to see how this works, or is it?
No.
Okay, I want just the microphone.
Here, I got you.
Does someone want to help me hold, please? I usually have a table, so this is going to be interesting. So, actually, yeah. So first of all, first step is get the bacteriostatic water into the peptide vial. So you have to buy the syringe. Actually, you can get it from Amazon. And I like to get 3 milliliter syringes. Now this won't go into your body. Don't Don't be worried. And then, let's say you want to add 3 milliliters of water to your peptide later on. What you do first is you sterilize the vial. Then you pull it out to the amount that you actually want to inject later into the vial. You plug the needle in. And then first, for all the physicists, you will understand why. You inject the air in, and it's way easier to afterwards blow the water. There we go. This is a new brand I haven't used before. And as you can see, it doesn't really get the water in as easily. So let me just get this one dry. And otherwise, we shall receive a bit less water, which also works. Right. Here we go now. Alright. By the way, how much water you need to do this milk as fundamentally important. We're going to go for exactly millimeter now. And then we're taking the second alcohol to actually reconstitute it. So we're taking the powder, or the type. We are removing the cap. Then we are wiping this in. And then slowly pushing this in, and you can see that it's actually getting sucked into the vial. And so it's sucked into the vial quite quickly. Damn, I don't even have to do anything.
Is that making pressure in there?
Yeah. And then you just roll it a bit. Don't shake it. Red True is surprisingly stable. But something like IGF-1 LO3 is actually really, really stable. And so you want to make sure that you just gently roll it. And now, I'm going to put this down, but you want to put the cap back on. And then, for the injection, you take yet another alcohol swab. Lots of alcohol swabs is getting expensive. And you take a different needle. You take a 100 unit or 50 unit syringe. That's way smaller. Oh no. You of course don't want to use the side that was on the floor. The good thing is, you can open this up. Alright. Actually, yeah. It's the last one I have, so I guess if I die, then Alrighty. So, you remove both caps. It fell down again, by the way.
See, there's one behind you. Use the top side.
I'll grab one from my backpack, actually.
We'll cover proper.
I don't want to be the New York Times article, right?
Also, there'll be a video. All this will be on video. We have the slides, so don't worry. I know we got a lot of questions about that, so we'll send out those.
Right. I want to find a bit of fat around here. Make sure it's all kosher. Then I've already disinfected the top here. And then you just hold it gently a bit. And now this is going to be very potent, so I'm adjusting the dose. We're not going to talk about dosing for now. But I'm basically doing my weekly dose here. And you should be able to see it slowly peptide comes out. It's in here. liquid, and it's actually easy. The actual injection is the easiest part. It's just so smooth. And in you go. That's it. That's it from my part in terms of content. I'm going to leave one slide out. If you want to join, or more like collectively start, the New York Peptide Club, then scan this, and we can chat also offline, or actually online, what you call it. So yeah, thanks so much for coming out. Thanks so much, Mike.
We'll do questions.
We do questions. Okay.
Yeah. Hello. Okay, so we're gonna do this quick. So who has a question? Okay, pass the mic back, but keep it short and keep your answer short. Yeah, pass it back.
I can tell that you're already pretty ripped. I'm curious why you take credit for that.
Ooh, that's a good question. So I have my own health journey where I suffered from super low testosterone. It was in the bottom 1% of men. And so only through clomiphene, lifestyle changes, diet, and also peptides, I was able to put on muscle in the longest time ever. If you saw me in November, I looked like a pancake. I was so bloated and like came out of my last bulk. And then retatrutide helped me slim down again naturally.
Just pass the mic.
I have a very quick question. So you mentioned oral BBC.
Yes.
Something where
Barrier. Barrier. Good friend of mine invested in the company. It seems to be really good.
So certain peptides, you can clearly tell the difference. BPC, about losing weight. But with things that are more subtle, like maybe a mitochondrial focused one, how do you decide it's worth paying for your buck? Where there are things that are promising, but you can't necessarily tell yourself as well how well it's working. So how do you decide what's worth the cash with all these promising things coming out?
That's a great question. Depending on the dosaging, you sometimes can't really. I think SSP was a great example. I feel like I have more energy. I feel like, I'm actually like constantly on like one espresso more than comfortable. That's a bit of an exaggeration. But some don't. And especially SSP is really expensive unless you get it from China. Like you can easily spend $300 a week on SSP at like study dosage. So tough one. Other ones that you might not feel like easily are osmosis. And then KBV is get microbiome focused. And that just depends like how much your microbiome is.
Do you still invest in like say the mitochondrial ones, or you're not?
All right, next question.
Do you think sites like ADMR are safe?
Use the microphone. Use the microphone.
Do you think sites like ADMR are safe?
Which market?
ADMR.
So like NDMR, ADMR.
These are like India Mart.
India Mart.
Yeah.
India Mart. That sounds very, very. I mean, can I get like my chicken curry delivered as well?
Next question. We'll get my back.
Why would one microdose like GLP-1s like go to Friday? Is it for the other like for the longer less reasons or the weight loss?
Yeah, exactly. Because I just want to focus. You're right, comfortable like 12% body fat already.
Pass the mic back to the guy in the back.
Is things like exercise, diet, and our supplements like important to taking GLP-1 for whether obviously any peptides?
100%. Like 100%. Especially to not get any muscle atrophy. Definitely also want to exercise.
Raise your hand if you have a question.
You probably know Martin Shkreli. He thinks BTC 157 probably does nothing. Do you think there's a chance it's all placebo effect?
No, I don't think it's placebo effect. But I've heard those voices, and it's hard for me. Like, he's not a clinician, right? He was in the crypto space before.
No, I mean he was a drug investor. Do you think he knows pharma pretty well?
Yeah, interesting. I just find it hard to believe that the cumulative anecdata from hundreds of doctors at this point in time could lie, and like people I've trusted who tried it and it's helped them feel like their own tone tried it. Which usually take like
I mean, I almost had the placebo effect because I hurt my shoulder.
Yeah.
And I was about ready to do it, but I was like a little worried, so I waited a week. I changed my diet, and then like I fixed the shoulder. If I had ordered it, I would have done like it's a miracle drug.
You mentioned the fertility benefits from GLP-1s. It was my assumption that a lot of that comes from reduction of obesity, not independently improving testosterone or fertility benefits.
That's very accurate. Yes. That's very true.
Nice for halos.
For cows?
Yeah, halos. For our nails, like it's very cool halos.
Oh, yes, yes. So GHKCU also helps with halos actually. Due to the like positive collagen effects, it pairs very well with red light. From my research, like take like an actual red light cap and combining that with a like smaller dosage of minoxidil and finasteride, it works better. There's also a company called Roots that does customized halos protocols. I would be careful with finasteride, especially an oral one, because it might mute your testosterone.
What's your experience with LL37, or have you heard of it?
LL37. I don't think so. I'd love to learn more about it. I mean, there's about a couple thousand of peptides, 7,000 of peptides, so might be one of those, or I just haven't heard of it.
Okay, yeah, it was on your list above, and it's on the FDA meeting list. So,
Yeah, I'll look into it.
How do you find physicians that have experience in these?
Ooh, join the New York Peptide Club.
Do you know, as a follow-up, any like training for physicians in this?
The ones I know just like studied themselves. There's one doctor, two doctors in New York can directly also connect you with if that's helpful.
Thank you.
Lucia.
I know with BPC 5157 you said that some people are at greater risk and also that some of the risks are overstated, but I'm not sure, maybe I missed it. Do you have anything more compelling or like maybe like someone who's spoken to that a bit more? Because we don't really, I think, I'm not sure I've heard something else compelling.
So is the question, how to convince skeptics?
Do you have
So good news.
point something?
Yes, I have a fact for you that might be helpful. For most drugs or interventions, we have an LD50 in animal models. LD50 measures what the necessary dosage is, so that at least 50% of the mice, in most cases, die straight up. And we've injected mice with 1,000 times the normal dosage, and they still didn't die. Maybe that's helpful.
So assuming you don't have cancer or any pre-existing risk, should be right.
Also, yes, there has been like some research on like the general cancer effects, right? Like for BBC, that seems to be the case. Also for GLPs, the whole thyroid cancer thing is only happening in animal models and non-human models. It still comes with a warning for thyroid cancer, but it hasn't been conclusive yet.
So peptides act on biological pathways that are heavily influenced by changes.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering why you would help people just go on the peptide way. Because typically what we're trying to do is address the symptoms of DNA mutations, methylation issues, brain fog, etc. Hormonal discrepancies. So, you can also determine what peptides will work best to you based on your genetic mutations. So I'd like you to address that. Could maybe make that a recommendation to truly be able to have the whole standard of community personalized help.
That's a beautiful question. I love this question so much. I just got my genome sequenced through sequencing.com, unaffiliated. There's another service like Nucleus, which you might know. You might have seen the New York subway ads like "Make the Perfect Baby" a couple months ago. Sequencing.com is like $400, $500 to get your whole genome, like a 30x sequencing. Now, the problem is actually analyzing that. Because even AI models like Google Pathway Genome 2 or the ARCS Institute, Evo, I think it's called, they don't have enough data to actually give very profound recommendations in most cases. But you can get things like Echo 1B, stuff like that.
Well,
From there.
methylation, I mean, that's such a common genetic mutation. Vitamin D was like the mutation. 60% of the global population has that. They don't know it just by being able to read out. An average analysis from a company like 3x4, it's $250.
Yeah.
Tell you exactly what genes you have.
Yeah.
I'm on 25 specifically trying to make this a standard and you can do a better job.
I would love that. I look at like 3-on-4, 3x4. Amazing. I would totally look at that myself. But I haven't like actually looked at my own genome, so very much more to come. Thank you so much.
What's your stack and how did you decide on it? Like, how do you recommend we get started on that?
Great question. My stack right now is very simple. It's Ritter, it's SS31, and it's BBC. Just because I'm cutting and I don't want to have the like negative side effects of the growth hormone stack. It used to be these, like, used to be S31, BBC, Agmorelin, Tesmorelin, IGF-103, and I think TB500. Yes. So it was like a very heavy testosterone stack. For the average person, GLP is a great start. And then it just comes up in goals, honestly. It's hard for me to give like advice on like general stack. But for focus, yes. I'll see if S31 is good.
I think you were sizing the gray market at 200 to 200 billion today.
That's the last time I checked. Or the last stat I found from like 2025 or 2024, yeah.
So if you have a positive PPAC FDA PPAC meeting next week, how big do you think the market will be in 2 to 3 years?
Great question. So in 2035, it's projected to more than double in size, like 2.2. I think that's still an estimate.
I'm not an expert by any means, so it's a very dumb question. Is your body the lab? And how do you test like every combination of every stack possible?
Good question. Yes. It's a simple question, but then the next questions, right? Yes, your body is the lab. I get blood tests like every 2 months roughly. And I only like start taking new peptides once I don't try like all of them at once. Which is also a bit of a lie because it's what I did in the beginning. But I had a physician who looked through my blood, gave me my blood, and took every little bite this time. And then still good to go.
Is there research into the stacks themselves, like if there's interactions between multiple like peptides together?
Unfortunately, I hope there's more of that for sure.
How much do you spend monthly? Right now,
I don't really know. I bought so much from China, and then I can just use and I've tested it, and it's good stuff. With my current stack, I would probably spend around $300 per month.
How much at your worst?
With all this stuff around, like probably 700. Yeah. But it was only for like 3 months. I love all your questions, by the way. It's fantastic.
Who has a question? Raise your hand if you have one.
It sounds like your bulk stack was mostly growth hormones and glucagon.
Yeah.
Right. What is your opinion on testosterone and glucagon?
Testosterone secretors, like such as enclomiphene.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of enclomiphene.
Okay.
So for some context, the FDA approved clomiphene in women first, but it also has another component to it. I think it's called zuclomiphene, I could be wrong. That like in man actually has androgenic effects and actually gives you nausea and makes you very moody. And enclomiphene is just the part that actually helps with the testosterone production. And it doesn't actually replace testosterone, but it prompts your pituitary gland, the hypothalamus prompts the pituitary gland to release more LH and FSH, which then signals the testes to produce more testosterone, so it's very gentle. And it doesn't have any long-term side effects. And in all transparency, I needed to take that because my T was so low because of stress, my system needed a restart. So, big fan of the clomiphene.
Hey, Joshua here. Thanks for coming out. One question I have for you is: it sounds like you're on 3 different things right now. How do you think about traveling with them again to take them weekly? Do you just reconstitute and then you say, "Hey, I'll bring this with me because I can't, do it and travel with it," and you throw it out, or how does that work?
Excellent question. You can travel with it when lyophilized easily. Once reconstituted, it depends on the actual peptide. My roommate has the retatrutide on the counter all the time, and it still seems to work for her. But you want to usually protect it from movement and from heat and from UV light. So those are the 3 things. What you can do, get a travel case on Amazon, get the life version with you, reconstitute wherever you are, and then inject. But for like more fragile peptides, they might actually degrade. It doesn't make them bad, they just don't bad.
Got it. And one follow-up question: how do you feel about like Clo and some of those that were like combined into one vial? You think they're just as valid? Be like pro or con? I've seen some people say it. I do say that you should take them like one at a time and not a combination of one vial.
Great question. Some peptides you shouldn't take together, like especially GLP-1s because they're so intricate, you shouldn't mix with anything. And especially, I keep going back to IGF-1 because it's so fragile. Now, some peptides you can actually take together. I don't recall which one specifically, or if like a blend of these 3 or 4 would degrade the effectiveness. But it depends on the peptide.
The testosterone ones you mentioned, do you have to worry?
Not the peptide, but
Oh, gotcha. I wasn't sure if there was long-term ramifications to your body being able to reduce testosterone the same way if someone takes TRT,
yeah,
or if that's not the case.
yeah, very different from TRT. TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, is exogenous testosterone. Right? And so I've talked with my longevity physician who's been in this space for 40 years, and he says there are no long-term negative side effects now.
Which one was it again?
Enclomiphene.
Okay. Yeah. Alright, so with like your stack, how are you tracking everything? Like, is it in a spreadsheet? And then are you plugging it into like, are you leveraging any AI or LLMs to keep it, to track this? And is it more, or is it like more intuition based?
Right now I can just do it based off memory. I used to have, I used to actually go through the protocol that my physician sent me, just like as PDF, and read through it every day again to make sure I'm on the right track. I could have used a peptide tracker, but they just have become popular in the last several months. People make like good MRR with it, and some of them are actually good. So you can use that similar to like Color AI. There's now peptide tracker apps.
Anyone else have a question? Okay. Raise your hand at the response.
I had one more. Sorry.
Go. Yeah, go.
Wait, sorry. I might have missed the fragment what someone else said, but I was also interested in the stability. And if would you be able to say more? Do they degrade because of just like denaturation or pure hydrolysis, or are there media to try to preserve them longer? And what's the kind of scale of stability over time? Like, are there super fragile ones and super stable ones? Yeah, just like stuff about that. Sorry if that's too big.
You're asking like what the actual chemical or physical mechanism is, which why they.
Well, yeah, like why do they degrade and which are the most stable as opposed to most immobile?
Good question. I would assume it's like molecular binding ability, and then like any sort of physical impact, like makes them break apart. Most stable ones are the longest, most complex ones. Generally the ones that are manufactured by Big Pharma. Less stable ones are, yes, I keep going back to IGF-1 and L3. BPC is fairly stable. Mitochondrial ones are fairly stable. Yeah, but I wouldn't know how to rank them within the like okay stability. Just keep them refrigerated. I have my own peptide fridge at home in the bathroom. It's very cute. And then that's it.
Okay, let's pass the mic up here and we'll do a couple of anything in the back? Alright, pass the mic up.
Yeah, are you taking anything else that's peptide? Supplements?
Yeah, supplements.
Or like the Dalapil or
No prescription.
We should branding ready for that once approved by
I think it's going to be too expensive. So Lilly, Eli Lilly got compounded. The researchers only able together, and basically said, "Well, guys, we don't really care what you're doing there, like on the gray market, as long as you stay away from regulatory time." And so we'll have to see if we can enforce that. But depending on the price, all the people I know have made bought incredible peptides already, and I don't need to be made back in that.
What price are you getting?
Right now I'm getting it at $10 per 10 milligram vial. Usually you pay like 90 for 10 milligram vial.
I feel like most doctors wouldn't
recommended for themselves for the patients unless they're actually approved or there are clinical studies. Communications really. Yeah. You actually said it's coming in soon in the near future. I think the way a good doctor operates, like acts, is like having a conversation with the patient, like inform them, hey, here's the data, here's what I've seen, here's the side effects, or if there's side effects. But you know, almost every drug has side effects if you think about that, even the approved ones. And so, is that changing anytime? I think doctors want to educate themselves more, which is, by the way, also an interesting business opportunity, like doing consultation for doctors to integrate peptides into their practice. Are there doctors in your biohackers group you're back to California? For sure. For sure. Oh, there's so many questions. That's fantastic, guys.
Yes, I'm kind of curious. For people that take like ADHD medication like Ritalin and Adderall, how does that play into if they're interested in taking peptides?
That's also a fantastic question. So I know specifically about how ADHD medication and EPC work together. Some ADHD medication. And then, of course, you might get upset because I'm like, I can't work anymore. What the fuck? So that's the one example I know. Thank you.
These drugs obviously focuses on the positive effects, but are there a lot of contraindications that people don't really understand? Or like if you take certain peptides for a longer period of time, does it change how your body actually processes these things themselves? Does it weaken receptors, etc.?
For some of it does. IGF-1 L3, which stands for GF is always growth hormone factor 1, I think. And so there's a mild decrease in the growth hormone that you produce yourself, but it's not as severe as, say, you're going on TRT and your body like almost completely starts producing testosterone and your sperm count goes down to like 10%. Now, is there like a fatigue of certain receptors? For GLP, yes, your body gets used to it, and you need to increase your dosage over time to actually have the same effect. Now, what you can do, a friend of mine does this, is microdosing 0.5 milligrams on, 0.5 milligrams off, bi-weekly ritual, right? And this way, it works quite naturally for him.
Cool. All right. Oh, wait, one more. Go ahead.
That's one.
Just yell it.
Oh, I'm trying to wrap my head around what more mainstream adoption of peptides will look like. So, so I'm just thinking, like, with the FDA committee coming up, like, how consequential is that? If they say yes, like, what happens from then on? And if they say no, what happens?
Great question. So RFK wants to get them categorized as actually supplements. And the impacts of that are, as you can imagine, kind of widespread. The whole compound, like the whole research use only space, might see like a race to the bottom, and compounding pharmacies will probably take over because they have like the brand reputation advantage. And then we're gonna see like more CPG brands, chocolates, gummies, powders, especially from the GLPs and EMCs of the world, to sell them to the masses.
Just to zoom out for a second, what do you think about longevity in general? Since you're at the frontier as an expert, right? Like people always like predict like, oh, the next generation is gonna live to a so and so age. So with the help of peptides, what do you think its role is on longevity?
Yeah,
what's your guess?
Fantastic. I think peptides are no miracle drug at all. They help for already existing processes, but if you actually look at the mechanism, they're nothing that's going to help you fundamentally live longer than 120. I do believe though that through like the advent of AI and protein folding models that have like just become so much better, we're just starting to scratch the surface. And there are people I respect who say that we might be in a winner here. We, I mean like millennials, Gen Z, might be generation who can live like to 200 years old, might not even die. Can I assess if that's right or wrong? I'm in the right person to ask for that. But I think longevity trend is just starting because it's the biggest trend in life. Like, we'll stay alive, take and everything up.
Amazing. Well, Julius is around after this.
Appreciate you. If you want to stay in touch, send me an email or tweet to the DM. And yeah, it's very being here. Thanks so much.
I know, it's Thank you so much. That one's yours.
I mean, I was
Hey, Michael. Michael.
Good to see you.
See you soon.
Just doing
Hello.
a little scan of the room to the internet. Hello, every internet. Goodbye. We're gonna log off. Goodbye. Arrivederci.